Call this special council meeting of the town of Fort Frances to order, and we'll begin with a territorial acknowledgement. We respect and truly acknowledge that we are on Treaty 3 territory, the traditional land of the Anishinaabe and the Métis Nation. We give gratitude and honor to the ancestors, elders, and all Anishinaabe and Métis people for sharing their resources and knowledge. Item 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Councillors, if you have any interest, declare now. Seeing none, you of course can always declare at any time during the meeting. Item 4, this is a special meeting, and the purpose of this special meeting of council is to deliberate on and consider the adoption of the 2026 operating budget of the town of Fort Frances. And so moving to 4.1, this is an item that was on the agenda at the last meeting. It's been moved and seconded already, and some debate has been had. But we'll now open the floor on this item, and I'm looking for comments. Councillor Brunetta.
You could tell I I wanted to have a comment because I moved my microphone, right? Okay, I just wanted to give you an update. I did discuss the grant writer at the NOMA board meeting. There was a fair amount of discussion, but in the end, it was felt that many of our communities are competing for grant money, so it didn't really make sense to have one central person doing it for all of our member organizations. So that's kind of where it was left.
And thank you, Councillor Brunetta, for looking into that for us. It's always good to have as much information as we can. Councillors, is there any further discussion on this recommendation? If there is no further discussion on this recommendation, then I'm going to call the question. And just so that we're all clear, I will read the recommendation once again, although it's been moved and seconded. That council receive report AR-26-0997 entitled Creation of One New Full-Time Equivalent Grants and Finance Coordinator, and the council direct administration to bring forward the Grants and Finance Coordinator position for consideration to the 2026 operating budget deliberations. All in favor? That's carried. No one was opposed. Thank you very, very much for that. Which now then brings us to the larger agenda, item 4.2, which is the draft operating budget. Before we proceed, I'll put a resolution on the floor. The recommendation that I'm putting on the floor reads, the council agree to the 2026 budget as presented with amendments. Further, any amendments made at this meeting may be vetoed by the mayor until February 19, 2026, at which time this budget will be deemed to be passed. I've already stated I don't intend to veto anything. With that, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Brunetta, Councillor McTaggart. Any discussion, councillors? Okay, so before we, Councillor Bien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, maybe to a question for Treasurer Galusha. I'm on page 6 of 12, I believe. I think it's called 2026 Operating Budget Overview. And the line that I see is prior year's surplus allocation. It says $60,000. Well, maybe if Treasurer Galusha could explain to me what the prior year is that is referring to, and also why $60,000 was chosen. Thank you.
Madam Treasurer.
Through the chair. Yes, so the prior year would be a 2025 surplus. At this point, our year end is not yet complete. However, we are predicting we'll get at least a $60,000 surplus. My prediction is probably more in the $200,000 to $400,000 range, because I know that's always the big burning question. But so why did we do this? Partially just to try to keep the taxes lower. We do run surpluses many years. So on Councillor McTaggart's usual request to do so, to bring the surplus forward, we're at least just, we picked 60,000 for this year. Make sense?
Follow up?
I didn't see a prior year surplus allocation for 2025. Is that Not do one from 2024?
Madam Treasurer?
That's correct. The surpluses from 2024 are still sitting as surpluses on our financial statements. I will be bringing a report forward, hopefully near the end of March, to allocate those surpluses likely to reserves.
Just to follow
I'll
up.
have to come back to you.
Okay,
So
thank
I'll
you.
go around and get back to you. Further questions or comments? Back to you, Councillor Bien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So I'm just curious how administration feels and the rest of the council feels if they think that 60,000 should be increased. Because if it's $200,000 to $400,000, that's quite a bit. And I think there was quite a bit of surplus in 2024. I just wanted to make sure that I understand the importance of putting money back into reserves. We're spending a lot on reserves. We're depleting them quite rapidly, and they need to be replenished. I understand that. But if it's that much over a surplus, that seems to me that is there room for increasing that budget line to lower taxes even further? Thank you.
CAO Michaels?
Thank you, Your Worship. In the past, I'd have to go to our treasurer to confirm maybe the last time a surplus has been used, but to my knowledge, it's been well over a decade, and we've been running a surplus every year. 2024, if I'm correct, was $450,000, I believe, or slightly over $450,000 surplus. Again, not allocated, but when the report comes, essentially those would just go to reserves. Now, that's a truly council decision. My attempt for this, and we've had discussions, was, okay, we'll use a small amount to bring it a palatable tax increase, but council truly owns that money. This is additional money above and beyond, and I know some of you already know this, but for the public who might listen, we've already made all our allocations to our reserves that we said we would, plus the increases. This is above and beyond. So for some people, they say, well, this is money that was like sort of overtaxed a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Goes back into reserves, which is a good thing. Ultimately, this is not an administrative decision. We've used some. We wanted, again, to make it 3.7 is palatable, but, you know, the times are difficult for many people. But you own the amount of money. But we are in a fairly good fiscal surplus condition for you to allocate whatever funds you want. If there's direction, and administration is always listening for the use of this year over year, we'll look at that. But the long answer is we started with a nominal amount because it's never been done to my knowledge in a decade, and it's for you to own. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Further questions? Councillor Brunetta?
Thank you. I think I'm comfortable with the way this is laid out. I like the idea of not putting too much into the budget piece because then it just increases our tax rate. So as the CAO mentioned, at the end of the year, we'll have probably more of a surplus than 60,000, but that can be due to a number of different reasons. It can be staff vacancies, it can be different things. So I'm comfortable with the 60,000. I think that's adequate, and in the end, it will be more than that anyway, in all likelihood. So that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brunetta. Further questions or comments? Councillor McTaggart?
Thank you, Your Worship. I've gone through the budget and I have asked my questions of administration. I am comfortable where we're at, and I thank administration for their considerable work in bringing this budget together. Just one cautionary note that I put out there: if you look at the amount of interest and penalties on taxes, it's a significant amount, and that's people not being able to pay their taxes. And we need to keep that in mind when we're looking at our budget for certain, because people are struggling in our community, and that needs to be a very key indicator of where we're at. So it's up from the year before by about $14,000. So I think administration has come in at a very good level. I think the unallocated amounts or the uncontrollable amounts is what really cost us. The OPP, DSAB, and health unit in particular are the items. So just one other comment that it's not going to affect this budget year, but I would encourage administration and the next council to, if you look through the budget, we're training our staff, and rightly so. We need to do that. We need to keep our staff current and up to date. But looking ahead to next year, there's going to be a change, I understand, in the mayor's chair and probably in a couple of councilors' chairs, that for the next budget cycle, that administration look at increasing the number of people that go to Aroma and on AMO, because it's a training opportunity for new councilors or even current councilors to learn and to be better at the job of governance for the corporation, for the town. I would, just a recommendation going ahead to the 2027 budget. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Councilor McTaggart. Further comments? I'll make a couple of comments. I agree completely with what Councilor McTaggart said in that when you look at the percentage increase this year, about 3.7%, most of that is made up of increases to our uncontrollable expenses. Our OPP budget is up about 11%. The DSAB budget is up. The Northwestern Health Unit budget is up. MPAC is up. We have no control over that. So we have to pay that. So we have to raise taxes to account for that. In addition, we're mandated to put away a certain amount every year for our asset management plan. I believe we're putting away 1.4% every year to cover our asset management plan. So in view of those uncontrollable expenses, the amount that the controllable ones the town has have gone up is very slightly. And I commend administration for bringing this budget forward in tough times. They put a lot of work into it, and it's a very, very good budget. I also want to comment on what Councillor Bean brought forward, because I agree with him as well. I think we should not be having large amounts of money at the end of the year going into reserves, because you mentioned that essentially we're overtaxing. Now, it's hard to know that, but I think we really need to look at how we're taxing in view of what Councillor McTaggart said, times are tough. We should be trying to get it right, and I know that we're doing that, but maybe we need to look at how large the surpluses are, and can we budget more tightly bearing that in mind so that we don't have these large surpluses at the end of the year, because essentially that is taxpayer money. Any further questions on this budget? Councillor Bean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, and I'd like to propose maybe a amendment or a motion that we increase that budget line. I know Councilor Burnett said she's comfortable with the 60,000. I would like to see us increase it more this year, because I think we can, and that would reduce the tax burden on our residents. So I'd like to see if there's an appetite. I'd like to propose that we maybe make it 100,000 instead of 60,000, or even more. I'm open to any suggestions, but that's where I'm at right now. I think this is a good year where we can do that to help out our residents.
So you're proposing an amendment to the budget that council increase the amount from $60,000 to $100,000 that would normally go to reserves.
Yes, that's correct.
And you're moving that?
Yes.
Seconder on that? Councillor McTaggart? Okay, so moved, Councillor Bean. Seconded, Councillor McTaggart, that council increase the amount that's going into the operating budget that would normally go into reserves from $60,000 to $100,000. Discussion on that, councillors. I'll go to Councillor Burnett first and then Councillor Mackey.
Maybe the treasurer could clarify, but I believe increasing this number will actually increase our tax rate. Oh, it won't. Okay. Thank you.
Madam Treasurer?
Increasing the surplus from reserve, or surplus allocation, will reduce our tax rate.
Thank you. Councillor Mackey?
Thank you, Worship. If the treasurer could advise us, in the last 5 years, where has our total surplus numbers, have they increased over the last 5 years, or are we in a declining mode? That would have some bearing on whether we should increase this or leave it as status quo, in my mind.
Madam Treasurer?
I don't have that handy at the moment. I could go grab the financials from upstairs, but
So we don't have that information at this moment. We could get it for you, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Dale?
Just for clarity, we do know approximately the last 2 years. So 2024 would be somewhere just north of 450.
I can pipe in.
Go ahead.
It wasn't just for 24. That was since the last time we allocated. So that's the surplus currently sitting on our financials. So it was more than 1 year. I just don't have it exactly.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I have new data. So if that's the accumulative amount, 450 over X years, we anticipate this year to be, approximately 200,000 to 400,000. Now, that isn't a tangible number, but that indicates that it's relatively healthy, that is at least not declining if we're suspecting a number between 200,000 and 400,000 for 2025. Thank you.
We'll go back to Councillor Mackey for a follow-up, and then Councillor McTaggart.
Thank you, Worship. Maybe I wasn't clear. I'm talking about total amount of money in reserves. We're looking at like there's 10,247,000. Was it 15 million last year or was it 8 million? The overall total amount is not what we're looking at in surplus for this year.
Thank you for the clarification. Can you look that up, Madam Treasurer?
Sorry, I'm still not sure what your true question is. Are you asking how much is remaining in reserves each year at the end of the year?
Go ahead for clarification.
I'm not looking for exact numbers. Has the total reserve been declining because we've been using it over the last 5 years, or status quo or increasing? We're at 10 million and change here by the looks of it for this year.
Madam Treasurer?
Yes, because we've had large capital projects, our reserves have been declining. This year, taking the largest hit with our 2026 capital budget.
I might add, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we had built up the water and sewer budget deliberately because we knew large capital projects were coming, and so they're here, and so that deliberate buildup has now gone down. Councillor McTaggart?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess my concern about going into these reserves is that last meeting we approved a covered ice surface of about $293,000 out of reserves. Tonight we're being asked for more money out of reserves to cover a project at the museum. And if we don't replenish that money, we're going to come up short. And so I'm a little concerned about raising it from 60 to 100.
Thank you, Councillor McTaggart. Any further discussion? Councillor Behan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Treasurer Galusha. Can you give us a ballpark of what a $40,000 increase in the allocation would reduce tax rate? You think it's what, 140, 138 a thousand is 1%? Oh, 40,000, quarter percent or third percent?
Just a moment, and we'll play the music from Jeopardy. Go ahead.
It would be about a 0.29% change.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to call the question on the amendment, which is to increase the contribution from $60,000 to $100,000. On the amendment, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Okay, so that brings us back to the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? Seeing none, I will call the question then on the main motion. All in favor? And that's carried. No one was opposed. Thank you very, very much, councilors. Thank you very, very much, Madam Treasurer, and all of administration for your work on this. Moving then to 5.1, I have a recommendation that having reached the hour of 4:50, this meeting of the town of Fort Francis be now closed. Could I have a mover, Councilor McTaggart, and seconded by Councilor Mackey? All in favor? It's carried. No one was opposed. Okay. Moving on, I will now call the regular council meeting of, I'm early? I am early. Do we need a break? In which case, I'm going to deem it to be 5:30. And with that, I will call the regular council meeting of the town of Fort Francis to order. And again, we begin with a territorial acknowledgement that we respect and we truly acknowledge that we are on Treaty 3 territory, the traditional land of the Anishinaabe and the Métis Nation. We give gratitude and honor to the ancestors, elders, and all Anishinaabe